Hi everyone, and welcome to The Celebrity Expert, your #1 source for all things TV shows and celebrities. And just a few weeks ago, The Flash Season 5 trailer officially dropped, and there has been a lot of hype surrounding it and speculation to what we can expect from Season 5 moving forward, especially after the events of Season 4. We know in Season 5 we're going to have this really unique storyline going on where Barry's daughter Nora comes into the fold, and obviously there's going to be a lot more elements involving time travel and messing with the timeline and along with the whole space-time continuum, which will be pretty interesting to see. And what was really interesting about the trailer and what we saw in the trailer is that there was no direct enemy really shown for the main part of the conflict that is shown for majority of the trailer. We do get a villain teased at the very end, but for the most part it looks like a lot of the conflict is going to start out fairly interpersonal before obviously delving into the more action focused and more person versus person storytelling that we've seen in past seasons of the show. However, what we did get from the short snippet that we have at the end of the trailer, we get some information on who the villain potentially could be, and of course a lot more room to speculate on the possibilities of it being different enemies or different types of characters, since there were so many enemies the Flash had in the comic books that this adaptation takes inspiration from. But due to a recent casting call, which was done a couple of months ago, it looks like we have some pretty solidified evidence as to who this character actually could be. Earlier on, there was a casting call for a character who would play as the villain in Season 5, and there was only a very little bit of detail involving what the character did to an extent and what age the character needed to be, being in the mid-40s. And in this casting call, it revealed some of the powers that this character was going to have, such as immortality and other types of power absorption and ability to take powers away, which, if you read the comics, these characteristics and abilities are very obviously pointing to the character Cicada, who was a supervillain against the Flash. And that was kind of the general speculation for a while. It really made sense outside of the casting age bracket, which is something that the CW kind of bends with their villains anyways, where they're casting someone who's in their mid-40s as opposed to a little bit older like Cicada normally is. However, if you even just look at pictures of this character, you know that this character, besides the fact will play an amazing villain, also has some similarities to the Flash. For instance, as far as the comics are concerned, both characters were struck by lightning to obtain their powers, Barry getting the ability of speed and Cicada getting his abilities of immortality and power drain. And one of his main weapons is a lightning bolt, and if you look at the end of the trailer, we see the lightning bolt on the table, which we're hopeful is going to be an example of this weapon, and we see it drawing electricity from the television, which confirms to us that this enemy has to be Cicada, because it's showing that they're able to drain energy and power, and this is kind of the perfect way of showing that. On top of that, at Comic-Con a couple of weeks ago, they also announced that Chris Klein would be coming on to play the new role of the supervillain. So we think that this is actually a pretty decent casting call, and this character overall most likely is fitting. However, we also have a theory that because there's going to be more time travel involved in this next season, that there might be other villains who are going to turn their heads up this season too. For the most part, it's always been the Flash kind of against just one villain. It's going to be really interesting to see how they decide to do this next season. Maybe they're going to change up the pacing and throw some people off where there's kind of a bigger villain hiding in the shadows, or maybe Cicada is that bigger villain and there's going to be someone who reveals themselves first and the team is going to have to defeat them, which should be really interesting for this season. And we're optimistic actually that this show is going to have its biggest and best season now, more so than any season we've had in the past. The stakes in this season seem a lot smaller to an extent, and obviously they'll grow into being a lot bigger, but sometimes when the stakes are smaller and more direct and interpersonal, it actually makes a more believable plotline or more ambiguous plotline where you don't necessarily predict exactly what's going to happen. If the fate of the entire world or city is at stake, it's pretty obvious on shows like this that usually the good guys win. Not always, but usually. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of a different sort of conflict and see how that rolls out in this, and kind of see what this villain is doing lurking in the shadows. We're really excited about this season, but if you are excited for CW's The Flash Season 5 finally coming out, leave a comment down below with what your biggest prediction is and what one thing you are most excited to see or most dreading to see of this next season. We read every single one of our comments. If you're new, be sure to subscribe and turn notifications on, and make sure you check out our Patreon page, link in the description, if you want to help support us making content across the board of these channels that we have. That's it for today. Be sure to subscribe and turn notifications on, and we'll see you all next time with a brand new video.